This evening, we're going to go ahead and get started with roll call.
Board President Marissa Perez.
She'll be 30 minutes late.
Board Vice President Martha Camacho Rodriguez.
Present.
Clerk James Cody Berkey.
Present.
Trustee Carmen Avalos.
Present.
Trustee Zurich Lewis.
Present.
Trustee Shin Lu.
Chisik
Trustee Sandra Salazar.
Arkin.
Student Trustee Valerie Escobar.
Present.
And President Superintendent Fierro.
Here.
Nice. Valerie, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start with 1.03, Agenda Organization. And I'm going to go ahead and read consent agenda items 3.3 and 3.34 were revised as presented. It has come to the board's attention that there is a need for immediate action regarding an issue that came to the attention of the college subsequent to the agenda being posted. Trustee Perez has requested that the board approve adding the following item. 4.01, discussion of the California state of emergency as part of the state's response to the COVID-19 outbreak.
19.
Yes, 19. So we'll correct that error.
Need a motion to.
Do I need a motion?
Yeah, motion to, or second the motion to bring on the item as a walk-on item.
Okay,
Yep. Second.
thank you.
Okay.
You gotta do a roll call vote on that.
Student Trustee Escobar.
Aye.
Trustee Avalos. Trustee Berkey.
Aye.
Trustee Camacho Rodriguez.
Yes,
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Liu is absent. Trustee Perez is absent. Trustee Salazar is absent. Motion passes.
thank you. We'll move on with 1.04 comments from the audience. And I have a comment card from Stephanie Rosenblatt. Thank you.
Good evening. Later on tonight during closed session, you're going to discuss Maria Garola, the medical assisting professor who found out 2 weeks after she was hired that she would be required to get a bachelor's in order to get tenure. This information was not contained on the job announcement, nor was it discussed during her interview. And it was only after she had accepted the position and given up her previous job that she found out this was a requirement. She was hired as the best candidate for the job. She did an outstanding job, and she was denied tenure because she was unable to get her bachelor's in time. The union lost the arbitration case that we fought on her behalf, but I wish you would vote to do something to help her get her job back, because a good person and an excellent teacher has lost her job due to the inconsistent application of a board policy. Maria lost her job because she is a woman working in a division managed by a woman who followed proper channels and went to another woman for help. In this case, the VP of Human Resources. But Maria didn't get any help. Instead, she got a restatement of the rules, the board policy. However, another male colleague in the exact same situation received help and advice after he and his male dean made the situation known to our president, another man. And the union? Well, we stayed out of the way in order to allow the Good Old Boy Network to work its magic, because the most important thing for us was that this colleague, who is an outstanding teacher and wonderful person, be able to become a permanent employee on our campus and be able to keep his job. So what kind of help and advice did our male colleague get? A creative workaround was proposed. He could teach less than 75% load for the entire year, so that year wouldn't count towards the 4, and he'd get an extra year to finish up his BA. Luckily, he didn't need to take on that option, but such an option was never proposed to Maria. Human Resources checked in with him so they would have documentation of his progress towards a degree, providing them rationale for any extension they might need. They did not do this with Maria. In the response they gave to her, they told her an extension would be impossible. So like any rational person who was looking at a significant loss of income, she stopped trying to take classes. This logical decision was used against her during arbitration. The union actually went to the district and asked if they would be willing to work with a mediator or arbitrator to come to a decision which would allow the district to extend Maria's tenure clock. Our attorney had brokered a deal like this before. The district indicated that they would be willing to do so, then ran out the clock so this solution no longer became an option. But I wish you would direct the district to see what could be done for Maria now, because the most help our male colleague got came from you, the Board of Trustees. At this time last year, you voted to approve our male colleague's tenure. His name was on the list. For this colleague, you granted tenure before he finished all of his coursework. According to Ed Code, if you aren't going to grant someone tenure, you need to notify them by March 15th. If you don't notify someone that they are not getting tenure, they didn't get it automatically. But you didn't not terminate his contract. You actually voted to approve his tenure on March 6th. And I know he was still taking classes here through the spring semester. The union didn't say anything because honestly, the BA for tenure rule is asinine. How can someone be qualified to teach here part-time for more than a decade, excel in their profession, get hired for the job, be awarded outstanding faculty before getting tenure, and still be considered less a professional than me for a degree they didn't have that isn't even in the field in which they are teaching? But as leaders elected by the community, please take some responsibility for the slapdash application of that asinine policy. Don't get mad at the administration you hired for making the human decision to try and help a great employee stay. Get mad at them for not helping a similarly wonderful person coming from a historically underrepresented background who was penalized for not having the social capital to broker her own deal. She has been terminated because she only had me and Adriana and her female dean in her corner, and no one was going to think creatively with any of us. This whole situation is disgustingly unfair. Please find a way to fix it. Come up with a solution to help Maria get her job back. Instruct them, your employees, to find a way. And get rid of that stupid policy once and for all. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the audience before we move on to 1.05, reports and comments from our constituent groups? Okay, so we'll move on with 1.05, reports and comments from our constituent groups.
Hello. Last week we had what can be called a fairly successful visit from the accreditation team from ACCJC. While our official external report won't be available for several weeks, I have an overall positive feeling about the process, especially since this is my first accreditation in a leadership role. Our last accreditation cycle, the Commission took action to issue warning and require a follow-up based on 3 areas of deficiency, one of which was leadership and governance. In 2014, it was documented that we did not follow our procedures and policies regarding decision-making and shared governance, specifically BP and AP 2510 and BP and AP 2410. AP 2410 states that any employee, student, or member of the public may initiate a review of any policy by submitting a request or recommendation in writing to the Office of the President for consideration by the College Coordinating Committee. On May 8, 2018, the Faculty Senate unanimously passed a resolution recommending that the language in BP 7210, which is the one that requires bachelor's for tenure, be changed. However, this language was never discussed in Coordinating Committee, nor was it discussed or commented on in an open session at the Board of Trustees meeting. BP 2510 identifies that the primary function of the Faculty Senate is to make recommendations to the administration and Board of Trustees with respect to the development and implementation of policies regarding academic and professional matters of the college, often referred to as 10+1. One of these items is the selection, evaluation, and retention of faculty. Additionally, this policy states that the Board of Trustees and duly appointed administrators of the college will reach mutual agreement with the Faculty Senate by written resolution, regulation, or policy in relation to the academic and professional matters. The Board of Trustees may act after a good faith effort to reach agreement, only for compelling legal, fiscal, or organizational reasons. The Faculty Senate expressed its views in writing to the administration, CCFF, and Board of Trustees, and yet we have not been consulted on this matter, nor have our recommendations been taken into consideration. There has not been a good faith effort on the part of the district to come to agreement on this policy, which means we are not following our procedures and policies regarding decision-making and share governance, just as we did not in 2014. I urge the Board of Trustees to take action tonight to recognize that BP 7210 is outdated and does not reflect the current text of AB 1725, which does not require a bachelor's degree for tenure for vocational faculty. And as academic professional matter, that the recommendations of Faculty Senate should be given considerable weight when editing this policy. Additionally, the policy in question has not been reviewed by the Coordinating Committee or the Board of Trustees since 2008, which predates our last accreditation visit. We should have updated or at the very least reviewed this policy prior to our 2014 visit, but we did not. We allowed a policy that was based on that was written based on an outdated text to live on, even though the Faculty Senate recommended that the policy be changed over a year ago. If you'd like to see the resolution from the Faculty Senate on May 8th, 2018, I do have copies, but I believe this was also received and filed to the board last year. But if anyone in the audience would like these copies, we have those as well. I'd also encourage you to recognize the good work our faculty are doing via our sabbatical reports, and then in a subsequent meeting, our faculty sabbatical applications. Thank you.
Good evening. At its January 15th meeting, the board approved the appointment of Dr. Amber Rock as the Director of Institutional Effectiveness, Research, and Planning, effective February 10th. Dr. Rock has been serving at Bakersfield College first as an institutional researcher and Associate Dean of Institutional Effectiveness. She previously served as a research analyst at Long Beach City College and as an institutional technology associate and graduate student researcher at UCLA Anderson School of Management. Dr. Rock earned her bachelor's degree in mathematics from UC Santa Barbara, master's degree in post-secondary administration and student affairs from USC, and a master's degree and a doctorate in higher education or an organizational change from UCLA. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Rock to Cerritos College. I'm asking if she'd like to say anything.
Just I'm excited to be here and excited to move the work forward.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm here once again as the union now representative, right, to voice our concerns with what's happening with Maria. As Stephanie and April both said, the minimum qualification for her department is an AA plus 6 years of experience, which she had. But apparently that's not good enough for tenure. So that's good enough to run a department for 4 years. That's good enough to teach their students. That's good enough to be the program director and do all of the work that she was doing, but it's not good enough for tenure. And so that's something that we disagree with, right? That the minimum qualifications for tenure should be the same as the minimum quals for hiring. If an employee works full-time for the district, as she did, and has children, it's very difficult to get a bachelor's degree, as I'm sure a lot of you know. Especially when you are also the chair of that department and the only full-time faculty member in that department. Maria was a hardworking teacher in a chair, and denial of tenure was not reasonable for her. The district and the statewide Senate agree she did not need a bachelor's to be a tenured medical assisting teacher. We are one of the only schools, if not the only school in the state, to require a bachelor's for tenure. So no one else around us requires this. This is not something that's normal practice because that ed code for tenure, former section 87615, was repealed, which would end the district's right to do this, but the district has still put that on. And if we want that to be a local qual, then as April said, we need to go through the proper channels to make that the new minimum qual for that local standard, right, for that job posting, and that needs to go through Senate processes. That's not something the district can just unilaterally change. Ultimately, it penalizes the students in the program to deny them the advantages they get from a chair like Maria. And I would also like to say, as an adjunct, I can only imagine getting your dream job, getting this full-time tenure track job that you've been dreaming of, making good money with healthcare and benefits and a retirement, and then all of a sudden that's pulled out from under you and you are teaching one class as an adjunct faculty member, right? That the devastation that would do to somebody, I cannot even imagine what she's going through right now. So I do ask that you reconsider this and you hire a good faculty member who is good enough for you for 4 years to do that work, to be the chair, to work with those students, to give her tenure. Thank you.
Any more reports? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to open session agenda. 2.01 institutional presentation, recognition of classified employee of the month.
Okay, so Rebecca, congratulations. The Outstanding Classified Confidential Employee Selection Committee named Rebecca Peng as the recipient of the Outstanding Classified Confidential, I was told that I needed to highlight confidential, Employee of the Month Award for January 2020. Rebecca began her career at Cerritos College in 2006 as an intermediate typist clerk in counseling. In 2019, she was promoted to a program assistant in the adult education department, and in 2013, Rebecca was promoted to HR technician 2 in human resources. Rebecca is always supportive of others, whether the questions are directly related to her work or not. She processes all regular new hires and sets the tone for new staff expectations for the campus. Thus, everyone on campus knows Rebecca. She is very welcoming and approachable and frequently provides guidance for others within and outside of the department. Rebecca serves on several campus committees, including the committee that is currently working on the murals for campus. Recently, Rebecca supported 3 large and active management recruitments that had over 45 candidates for reviews. She managed it successfully with both patience and kindness. Rebecca, your dedication, commitment, and willingness to go above and beyond to meet the needs of the students and staffs are exceptional. Thank you for a job well done. Please help me congratulating Rebecca.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We are excited to present another award tonight. The Outstanding Classified Confidential Employee Selection Committee has named Amajara, also known as AJ, as the recipient of the Outstanding Classified Confidential Employee of the Month for February 2020. AJ began her career at Cerritos College in 2004 as a program assistant in the technology department. In 2010, she was promoted to Student Activities Coordinator for the Student Activities Department. Cerritos College students nominated AJ for this award. Here is part of one student's nomination. AJ is loved and respected throughout the campus, from club and student leaders to staff and faculty to seek her guidance and audience daily, to past and present members of Cerritos College. She is loved and respected not because of her position. She is loved and respected because of her actions, her genuine desire to help, the unwavering approachability, the respect she gives, the knowledge she possesses, the time she commits, the dedication and reliability her track record shows, and the overall love for what she does. If this award is an indication of what it means to be a model employee of Cerritos College, then Amajara embodies all of it. AJ, the administration, staff, and students appreciate your personal attributes and outstanding efforts. We are proud that you are a Cerritos College employee, and we commend you for your outstanding service and dedication. Thank you for a job well done.
I'll give you one for you, Val.
All right, thank you everybody for being here tonight. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Congratulations again to both of our classified employees of the month. Item 2.02 is the institutional presentation of Mexican American Chicano Latinx Students Department calendar of events. So, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Casas. I'm the chair of matchless, and this is Henrietta Hurtado.
Hello, everyone.
First question I want to answer is, what is matchless? We were once known as the Chicano Studies Department, but we're now known as the Mexican American Chicana o Chicano Latinx Studies Department, or matchless for short. Right? Makes it easier. The program is probably in its second or third year now. And these are our major requirements: introduction to Chicano Mexican American literature, Mexican literature and translation, Chicano Chicana literature and Spanish, and then elective courses. Like I said, it's only been 2 years that we've been around, and we've already had, I heard from IERP, 10 to 15 students per semester the last 4 semesters in our program.
Right. So, what happens to a student's mind when they go into this major? They develop multiple skills, the ability to work with others, global perspectives, empathy for others, listening skills, communication, and basically a global mindset. Next. Yes, thank you. So the skills they develop in this pathway, which is a learning and career pathway as well, is oral and written communication skills, active listening, like I said, social perspectiveness, relating well to others, problem solving, and then adapting to change, which is much needed in today's society. Would you agree with me? Yes. All right. So we have occupations related to this pathway. You see multiple. So anyone really, you ask me, what can you do with this major? Basically anything you want. I always tell students, find something you really like to learn about, and you'll eventually grow into it and try something that perhaps you didn't even think about. So this is a great major to start with because it's interdisciplinary. So you have a framework that will develop a person's mind and in a very holistic way. So I would definitely encourage anyone to try our major. Now we have even artists like someone like Eva Longoria Baston, that after she was already famous and went into Desperate Housewives, she went back to college and got a master's degree in Chicano Studies from Cal State Northridge. She became a regular student with her backpack, roaming around, really digging deep into her roots and wanting to identify herself with who she really was as an individual. And so that tells you the worth of choosing a major that really agrees with your values and makes you connect with your ancestors and wanting to give back to the community. She is a philanthropist and someone that's very close to my social circle as well. So.
Trustee Perez, can I interject just for a second? I thought, just for the benefit of the audience and to some extent for myself, can you define what Chicano Chicana is? In part because this is something that when I throw out that word, oftentimes people say, what do you mean by that? So if you guys could explain, that would be helpful.
Well, I would say Chicano Chicana is more of a socio-political identity. It is definitely a positionality as far as your values in regards to paying regard to social justice, equity, and being an activist for human rights. We have founding parents like Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, Dolores Huerta, who have fought for a unionized society, but also creating the intellectual and the cultural capital for students and society to contribute and learn to respect a very rich culture and the position we have in our society. So that's my interpretation of it. There are multiple perceptions of what it means to be a Chicana or Chicano, especially in today's society. We're moving more into the identity sense of the Latinx perspective. But I would say it's very, how can I say, it belongs to like our space. This movement started in Los Angeles with the walkouts and all these things that were going on in the 60s. So it's a movement and it hasn't stopped yet, right? So we have different curriculum being put together. Yes. Go ahead.
We're really active with other programs and other departments in our school. And we're working on new curriculum and revamping old curriculum. Henrietta's working on an introduction to social justice AA that will be done in coordination with the new Africana Studies department. And we're also going to, in conjunction with them, write a course called U.S. Diversity and the Ethnic Experience. And Henrietta and I are both working on that. One of our faculty members is constructing a class on Chicano identity and community well-being. And I might add that the well-being of the community and involvement in the community is another aspect of the framework of the Chicano experience. And so that public health would be an area that our students are in. And I have currently 6 students in Masters of Public Health programs who have taken my classes before because they learned here to be grounded in their community and become, as Henrietta said, activists within their local community. And then, of course, the course that I've taught here for years, Health of Underserved Communities, we're now going to rewrite that as a cross-listed class between HO and Chicano Studies Department. These are some of our faculty members that you might see around campus, and if you don't see them on campus, we invite you to meet us or to come to our department meeting, which is the fourth Thursday of every month at 11 o'clock in the Social Science basement, SS16. I'm sure you recognize a lot of those names, and that's, we got that right over there. And finally, our calendar of events. Last fall, we started right out the door and had multiple activities take place, particularly during Latinx Heritage Month. No, that is actually Dr. David Hayes Bautista. It looks like us, right? David Hayes Bautista is a public health specialist, and he's a distinguished professor of medicine at UCLA. And he visited us last semester, and we had a huge crowd with members of the community, including Cal State Long Beach and Norwalk High School and some other high schools. And he spoke about the Latino GDP. We also were involved in the International Education Week's opening ceremony, and just last month, Hector Barajas, who is help me out here, who is a former serviceman who was deported, was a speaker for a large group of students.
Okay. So since it's Women's History Month, we have Dolores as our film that's being shown this month, next week on Monday. Dr. Pauline Acosta will be facilitating the film. She is back there. Hola. And so please come by for popcorn or bring some popcorn, mingle with students, and get to know the history of the United Farm Workers and our hero and who received the Medal of Honor from President Obama, Dolores Huerta. And then we have Los Punks, which is a film also based on the influence of Los Punks in East Los Angeles. So that's a film our students chose to feature. So I think it should be interesting. And why not give it a try? It'll be facilitated by Lidia Alvarez. And that's going to be on Cinco de Mayo. Right? And then we have presentations coming up as well. We have Jaime Escalante up there, who he was impersonating a Colombian math teacher who made a huge difference in Los Angeles, right? But that's not the film we're showing. We're showing we're having the Chicano Studies Career Cafe. So that'll be a conversation like this, but more like one-on-one with our students, where students will get to mingle with faculty and learn all about Chicano studies and what they can do with the major in Chicano studies. And then also on Cinco de Mayo, there will be a presentation by Walter Fernandez, professor of history, about the meaning of I think it's the military tactic of the Battle of Puebla. And finally, we have students that are also activists, right? We have Mecha of Cerritos. They are putting together a youth conference this year. It'll be, the title is No History, No Self, focusing on identity. So if you want to really know what the identity of Mechistas are, I think this is a great conference. It's also an excellent opportunity for you to bring high school students and interact with the community. So join us on May 2nd.
In the Student Center.
In the Student Center.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, both of you, for your presentation, for being here tonight. Any comments or questions from my fellow colleagues? All right. Okay. Yes, Trustee Avalos.
My only comment, I want to say thank you. I think it's going to be very exciting for our students to be able to have this as an opportunity to learn about themselves and certainly their culture. But more importantly, I would hope that in the process of going through what types of jobs they can obtain with this degree, I hope that you seriously consider offering up, public administration as part of that. I often see many times, when we have new folks come into public agencies that don't have the training in terms of being able to make presentations, being able to really provide a story in terms of presenting items. So I certainly hope that that's one of the things that you look at addressing, because I think there's such a big need for our local governments and public agencies to have folks who really have a more diverse background to bring something to the table. So I would hope that that would be something that you'd be able to share with them. So, but thank you for the presentation.
I think that's great. Just to add on to that, like for me, to your point, para conocer sí mismo, like to know yourself, walking into whatever else you do in your life is one of those things that is going to forever impact the way you view the world. And I mean, it sort of seems like a non-starter that we would have a program like this, but it's really important that we have a program like this that's impressive, that's amazing, that really impacts so many students. So gracias a ustedes for doing this. This is really I think a critical capstone to who we are as an institution. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you very much for being here tonight in your presentation. Moving on, we'll go to item number 2.03, which is institutional presentation, our sabbatical leave reports. So, the Board of Trustees will receive a presentation from faculty who went on sabbatical leave during the 2018-19 academic year. The Board of Trustees approved sabbatical leaves of absence for the following individuals: Sheila Hoyle, Tor Lacey, Kevin Taylor, and Julie Treher. So today we have, let's see, 3 people, right? 4? Okay, I see 3 presentations. Sorry, so who's first?
Good evening. I'm Julie Davis. I'm the chair of the Sabbatical Leave Committee. Thank you for having us this evening and for putting us on the agenda early. You've already read the names of our presenters, but the Sabbatical Leave Committee and I would like to thank all of the Board of Trustees members for continuing to support and to approve sabbaticals for our faculty. I think, as you will hear tonight, sabbatical projects are very important to our campus and provide an ongoing flow of new and innovative ideas and actions that really benefit and transform our students, our institution, and our campus family. So without much ado, I will let you hear from our first presenter, Tor Lacey.
Good evening. I don't know if I need this, but I'll use it, I guess. Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Fierro, Trustee Valerie, good to see you. So I'm here to present a summary of my sabbatical project from the 2018-2019 academic year. What I did was write a book titled Earth Science Field Trips in Southern California. This manuscript is principally a field trip guidebook for places in and around Southern California that offer exceptional opportunities for field-based geology and earth science instruction. Through writing Earth Science Field Trips in Southern California, a suite of online educational resources were also created. These supplement content throughout the book and are now being used to support instruction in some of our earth science classes. I also earned an online teaching certificate. This was done by completing the Cerritos College course online teaching workshop, which helped me to prepare to publish a document that would meet online accessibility requirements. As part of the online teaching workshop, I started constructing the Earth Science Department's first online geology class, Geology 102, which I plan to teach next spring semester. Earth Science Field Trips in Southern California. A little bit about the book here. It offers a unique instructional approach to geology. This guidebook was written to be user-friendly for community college students, marking a contrast to the prevailing guidebooks, which are too technical in jargon, making them impractical to use with non-majors, especially at a community college like ours. Each chapter is a self-contained lesson structured around learning outcomes with pre- and post-field trip questions and in-field learning activities. Each field trip chapter also includes en route talking points that point out landmarks relevant to the learning objectives of that field trip, utilizing what would otherwise be wasted downtime in transit on the bus. The guidebook also includes a how-to section for teachers seeking guidance for organizing and managing field trips. This manuscript has been published as a paperback version, which I have brought some copies for you tonight.
We'll be back in a minute. I got a few field trips to do.
Yeah, there you go. Good. That's the point. I'll let those get passed around. They're not signed, yeah. I didn't want to be presumptuous.
That'll be afterwards, yeah.
Okay. It is also published digitally. The digital version is available through the SEM division webpage. I'll bring up that now. Okay. Yeah, it worked before, right? I think it's just a little bit of lag. Okay, thank you. So I'll scroll down to the Earth Science Department. Oops. Go. And within the Earth Science Department, we have a field trips link here. And there is the document. The PDF version that you're going to see here in a moment is the same, has the same content as to the paperback version that you have, except this is in color, as you can see. So I'll just scroll.
I can tell you wrote this. This is written in the same language as you speak in. This is great.
All right, so I passed the plagiarism test. Yeah.
Same way of using it. This is great.
I'll just skim through it here. Table of contents. Okay. There's an acknowledgements, a preface, map showing the locations of the field trips. Okay. And this is the how-to section. Okay. Giving basically everything you need to know from start to finish on organizing and managing a field trip with students. Here is get that out of the way. Big picture overview of the geology of Southern California. This essentially is a quick summary of the evolution of the geology of Southern California with basic background information that students would need, such as plate tectonics, to understand the content in the book. Okay. As I get through this, I eventually get down to the first chapter. Each chapter is a standalone field trip. This is for Joshua Tree National Park. There's an introduction, a little bit about the human history, background geology information that is pertinent to this particular field trip locality. Okay.
This must have taken a year to do.
Precisely, yeah. and more, yeah. Each of the field trips are organized around learning outcomes, learning objectives. I've got key vocabulary, and then pre-field trip questions to assess students' understanding of the background information, make sure that they're getting what they need to get. And then here's the en route talking points. So as we're going along in the bus, I make sure that the buses are outfitted with a microphone so that I can talk about this stuff as we roll along through Los Angeles and try to make the landscape a little more meaningful to our students. Okay, and then eventually we get to Joshua Tree. Here's directions once you're there. And then specifics for each of the recommended field trip stops. Of course, there are a million things that you could do at Joshua Tree, but based on my experience, these are the things that are most doable in a day trip out there. At each of the field trip stops, there are activities that I recommend. And then I tie in the learning outcomes at each stop for reference. Some of the illustrations are interactive, so I'm going to click on this one here for an example. The Indio Hills between Palm Springs and Joshua Tree National Park offer some of the clearest surficial evidence for the San Andreas Fault in Southern California. These low, straight hills are a block of crust that has been squeezed up between two branches of the San Andreas Fault. Let's zoom in for a closer look. You'll notice that because the fault splits, the arrows indicating movement of the crust on either side of the fault are pointing towards each other, meaning that the crust is being compressed in that area. If we consider the same area in cross-section, or a side-on view, we can show how compression is squeezing the crust upward along faults, forming the hills.
How much did that narrator cost? That's a really good. It's really.
Now, I did most of the illustrations using something called Explain Everything, which is an app on the iPad. It was $4.99 for the teacher edition, so definitely worth the money.
By the way, I like your section here where you talk about don't forget to ask for academic fee waivers. I thought that was really great that you would include that.
Yes, indeed. It would be the cost if you take in a charter bus is they charge per person on the bus, so $15 a head. So that would add up. But most places are pretty easy to work with, and they welcome academic trips like this. So it's just a matter of making some calls and finding the right contacts, and it usually works out pretty easily, usually. Let's see here. Try to get back to the presentation. Okay, yeah. There. Okay. Okay, that's okay. If we get it up, I'll just scroll back. All right, thank you. I should mention as well the digital versions are 508 compliant. They're meeting all online accessibility requirements. The digital version is also a Canvas course, so I'm going to click on that just so you can see what that looks like. I can bring that up here. Oops, excuse me. The content is the same, but the organization is a little different. I've got it chunked as modules. There's the introductory information, the planning a field trip, the how-to section. There's the geologic overview, and then the field trips are the standalone modules. So this is what Joshua Tree looks like on Canvas. So again, the content's the same, but the layout is just a little different. Thank you. I like the way it looks on Canvas better myself. Very clean. Okay. Okay, a little bit about the OERs, or online educational resources. Just want to show you a few examples here. So these were made as I wrote the book, and they are content in the book, but they can be used above and beyond the book. So they are housed now through the Earth Science Department Canvas page. We have a bunch of resources here for instructors and students. And I'm going to photographs and illustrations here. And I'll click on desert landforms. Let's give you guys a few here. So I've taken photographs along the way. So there's some photographs from my field outings as I was putting the book together. This is out at Death Valley. I'm standing in the lowest spot in the Western Hemisphere, Badwater. Okay, looking out across at what we call an alluvial fan. Here's Bryce Canyon in Utah, showing badland topography. These are Boulder Pile or Inselberg Mountains, typical for Joshua Tree National Park. And these are called cuestas. We find these out at Red Rock Canyon State Park. And then here's an illustration or a drawing of a cuesta. And again, I made this with the Explain Everything app. Here's another one just for fun of alluvial fans. I thought you might want to see how I'm using the guidebook now in my classes. 2 weekends ago, we went to Joshua Tree National Park. This lesson required my students to use the guidebook before, during, and after the field trip. So this should take us, this is one of my current classes here. One of the modules for the class is field trips. And if I click on Joshua Tree here, as the students needed to do, there's a link that takes them to the Canvas document that I've already shown you. This is the same chapter. Excuse me. If I get back there. Okay. All right. After reading the background information, they were to answer the pre-field trip questions so I could check their understanding. And then after the field trip, they had follow-up questions so I could assess their level of mastery of the learning outcomes. Okay, whoops. Here's an example of some student work from one of the in-field activities at Joshua Tree. So some stops are, we're there for an hour or more. Some stops just 10 minutes, like this one. So we made some observations, and the instructions were for the students to draw what I was talking about. So that's what you've got there. Going forward, I'm involved in some professional outreach. Here at Cerritos College, I'm working with Colleen McKinley and our educational partnerships and programs to organize and host a Cerritos College workshop for high school teachers. The workshop will highlight how to plan and conduct safe and educational field-based learning experiences that tie into next generation science standards. The outreach could evolve into a dual enrollment opportunity for high school students. I've shared the guidebook with Earth Science colleagues at other colleges. I'm also promoting the guidebook with local earth science professionals, such as through the Desert Institute of Joshua Tree, which is affiliated with the University of Riverside, and the South Coast Geological Society, of which I'm a member. I plan to add field trip chapters. The photograph up there is of my son and his buddy. We went out to Irvine Regional Park a couple months ago, and they're helping me put together an activity that I'm going to use on this field trip this semester. So if it goes well, then I'll add that to the guidebook. And I'll continue to add to the OER database. So thank you. Thank you to the sabbatical committee, Manuel Lopez, Julie Davis, and Anthony Fortner for their guidance and encouragement. Carmen Lizarraga for ensuring 508 compliance and help with formatting the document. And all the Cerritos College managers for supporting the sabbatical process, which provides a fantastic professional growth opportunity for faculty, which ultimately benefits our students and supports the educational master plan of the college.
right. Thank you very much for your presentation and for a copy of your book. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Yes, Trustee Escobar.
I was going to say this rocks.
Mhm.
What were you going to say?
Well done. We love puns in geology.
You get a lot of them, I'm sure.
That was very
I'd like
nice.
to attest that I have seen the pictures that he has taken in the sabbatical in one of my classes, which I have taken with Professor Lacey for Earth Science, and they have been very beneficial to see the actual difference between the transition faults. So it was very different to see the actual pictures rather than just drawings. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it sounds like a great opportunity. You mentioned about the dual enrollment class. I think that would be very exciting for students to be able to take this class and to learn from you and to learn from all your work. So that's great that you're already developing that partnership with Colleen and her group. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for doing the cross-articulation with the K-12,
Mhm.
or at least for the high school dual enrollment program. I think that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I taught at a middle school for 7 years before teaching here.
Oh, okay.
And we went out to Vasquez Rocks a couple times with the sixth graders. And I remember what a positive experience that was for them. So I think especially for our students here at Cerritos College, just from personal experience, but of course all the feeder schools, they haven't seen these places, generally speaking. I mean, really only, I would say, a couple per class actually know what I'm talking about. And then you take them out to a place like Joshua Tree that doesn't look anything like what's around here, and it really opens their eyes. So that, if they get nothing else out of it, just that is worth it, in my opinion.
This is fun too, the way that it's written. You said it doesn't have a lot of jargon in it. I mean, some of it is fairly technical, but I would say that reading through this, I can't imagine what a normal geology book would.
Yeah, I brought a normal one with me in case it came up, but and reading through, I read it through a little bit before this, and for me, it's clear, but it's not something that I could, like, say, Xerox off copies and hand out to my students. They wouldn't understand what's going on. So, based on my experience this semester and last, and as Valerie, I hope would attest, they can read it, and judging based on the answers I'm getting from the pre-filled questions and the post-filled questions, they seem to be doing well, and it's at their level, which is what I was going for.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have you ever heard of the science rock band, the Amoeba People?
I don't know if I have.
Okay, I'll have to connect you because the lead singer of the Amoeba People actually is a K through 12 teacher in Bellflower Unified, and his big hit is "The Geologists Are Coming." And I should connect you guys because actually I'm going to steal Dr. Fierro's book and give it to him tomorrow at my children's school.
Okay.
But I think you guys would hit it off. And he actually, one of his things he's most proud of is his band actually performed at the National Geologist Conference. So I think you guys would hit it off really,
I think
really
so too,
well. I'll have to connect you guys. So very cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next presentation.
I'm nervous. Hi. So first of all, I would like to thank the college and the Board of Trustees for this incredible opportunity and all my colleagues who assisted in this process. It was an amazing year. I feel revived, inspired, and energized. Over my 2 decades teaching on campus, I've diligently worked to create curriculum that reflects the diversity of our population and the progress and understanding of culture in our global world. This year of research continued along this trajectory. I closely read over 100 books and reviewed dozens more, read dozens of articles, viewed over 100 films, and attended lectures and panels led by leading scholars in the subject areas of gender studies, media studies, Arab studies, and Middle Eastern studies. I produced syllabi, assignments, class activities, not originally proposed in my sabbatical proposal, as a means of demonstrating the result of my research and its application in the classroom. Each syllabus articulates the way in which I've internalized and processed extensive research. When I was hired to teach full-time in 2001, art history did not have its own major, and the focus of the program was Western. In 2001, I began diversifying the course offerings, creating Black images in popular culture, gender and sexuality in art, African art, converted the Eurocentric art appreciation course to world art, and shifted the content in the once taught humanities course, The Art of Being Human. Since that time, art history has become a major, and as of 2016, Cerritos College became one of the few community colleges in the United States to offer a visual and cultural studies major. All of the courses offered in our degree programs are GE transferable to Cal State University and UC system. With the advent of this new major, I developed new courses including Men and Masculinities, Constructing Manhood in America, Women in Media, and Introduction to Media Studies. These courses, approved by the Chancellor's Office prior to my sabbatical leave, had never been taught. The in-depth research conducted during my sabbatical has prepared me to teach these courses. Since my return, I have taught Women in Media, and Introduction to Media Studies is scheduled for fall 2020. In addition, I conducted research in Arab Studies and Middle Eastern Studies. Los Angeles County is the largest population of the Arab world outside of the Arab world, and yet there is a dearth of courses on our campus in that subject area. Although my sabbatical proposal only entailed writing a syllabus for a proposed course in Middle Eastern and Arab Studies, the new course, The Arab, the Muslim, and the West, has already gone through the curriculum committee process and is now being sent to the Chancellor's Office for approval. This course examines how the West views Arab and Islamic cultures. Since colonization, the West has often mischaracterized and vilified Arab nations, their people, and Islam. Vastly different in political, social, and religious affiliations, the Arab population has been presented as a monolithic tribe. Problematic narratives from colonization to decolonization to the present day contribute to these biases and conflate the Arab with the Muslim. The course analyzes these cultural and theoretical texts, as well as counter-narratives and various forms of resistance. I'm looking forward to teaching this in 2021. These courses are a significant contribution to the course offerings at Cerritos College, enhancing and fulfilling the college's mission in celebrating and honoring diversity and its belief in creating well-informed citizens. Furthermore, courses in male studies, Middle Eastern studies, and Arab studies are rarely, if ever, offered at community colleges nationwide, let alone at many universities. It is already apparent how my students are benefiting from my research, from the way in which I frame lectures and courses and advise them on their own research projects. This year of study informs the Visual and Cultural Studies lecture series and the book and periodical recommendations that have been submitted to the library. I've also reinvigorated content, creating further diversity in the material for my courses, Art of Being Human, Black Images in Popular Culture, and Gender and Sexuality in Art. I am most surprised how the time away from teaching caused me to reflect on my pedagogy. Although not included in my project proposal, I spent time evaluating syllabi from other instructors in universities throughout the country in the various content area of my research. This has been most informative in finding new ways to incorporate technology and in-class learning. I've begun to flip the classroom more and have created writing exercises that build on peer mentoring. I've slowed down my curriculum and expanded on material so it further resonates with student learning. It is evident in the past month since I've returned from sabbatical leave that these additions are improvements and well received by my students. And finally, what cannot be documented nor qualified is the energy and insight that this year of introspection and as study has brought to my teaching. I think I'm really a better teacher for it, and I am so ever grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions or comments from my colleagues? All right. Well, okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for sharing what you've learned. We'll move on to our next presentation.
Good evening, President Fierro, Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and my counseling colleagues. I am Dr. Sheila Hoyle, and I created my sabbatical on Culturally Competent Counselor Handbook. Part of my research, okay, there we go. Okay, so according to the Council for Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, CAS, counselors guide students to be successful in pursuit of their chosen goals and teach students how to make the most out of their college experiences. Counselors support students by cultivating meaning in their lives, helping them make major decisions about their future, and also accessing resources and support services for students while establishing and evaluating their educational and career goals. So the purpose of my leave was to research and study the standards of practice for the California Community Colleges counseling faculty programs, to also review public and private colleges, universities, culturally competent practices. I visited over 19 campuses from community colleges, Cal States, private institutions, and also to further expand my knowledge and skills on cultural competency. Ultimately, the goal, which was completed, was to create a best practices manual for training to support student success. The training that we currently have in the counseling department is very process-oriented, so this will be a good supplement in terms of introducing cultural competency, so we can include it in our trainings with new faculty and also with ongoing trainings on campus. So what is cultural competency? It's our knowledge, thoughts, awareness, behaviors, actions, attitudes, values, beliefs, and judgments about our students, our faculty, and staff. It's about understanding the cultural worldviews that shape our definition of a student, a family, community, religious or spiritual beliefs, a student with sexual orientation, disability, immigration status. It's also a respect for cultural differences and an eagerness to learn and a willingness to accept that there are many ways to view the world. When we think of cultural differences, oftentimes we think of race, ethnicity, but again, I mentioned disability, immigration, sexual orientation. These are all of the things that are pertinent when it comes to dealing with our students and things that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Cultural competency is also a willingness to explore our own histories of our cultural stereotyping and to understand how our perceptions and of self and along with our life experiences impact our interaction with students. It's almost like wearing glasses with different color lenses. And I like pink, you may like yellow, someone else may like red. I'm viewing life through those lenses, but sometimes I have to pull the lenses back to be able to really experience our students and to understand where they're coming from in terms of their life experiences over time and how that impacts their status here as a student at Cerritos. Why is this important? It's important because cultural competency builds trust and connection with our students. And all of us know that the research shows that students that are connected tend to proceed and complete their degree here on campus. It also builds student self-efficacy. So if we believe in our students, more often they will believe in themselves. And it also promotes student success and student retention. So again, a culturally competent counselor, faculty, staff, and I use these words interchangeably because I'm speaking about counselors because my research was done with counseling, but this can be transcended across campus. So counselor, faculty, staff, administration can mean the difference between a student succeeding or falling through the cracks. And of course, our goal is for our students to be successful. So some of the strategies to be culturally competent include understanding students' perspectives and others' perspectives, having a high expectation of all of our students, using culturally relevant materials and curriculum when designing our class instruction, And also being student success centered, knowing that our students have challenges, but if we believe in them and we know that we want them to succeed, we have to make sure that that is communicated to the students as well. And also having a positive view on students, parents, and families, because this is a community. We work with students that don't subscribe to I, but they subscribe to we. So as a community, how do we embrace cultural competency for the parents and families as well? And also the last strategy is accepting and embracing each other's differences. So my project results. So one of the results was developing a culturally competent handbook. I didn't make copies for everybody, but I can show you. So I do have this book, which is, it has all types of resources, information. It embraces cultural competency. It defines it. I have some diversity activities in the book, teaching strategies, strategies for counseling as well. I also have progress notes and also a place for self-reflection, because part of learning, reflection is really key in terms of learning. And so it allows counselors to take a look at where they are and to evaluate their cultural competency to see where they feel like they need additional assistance and training. And then also I created a digital resource repository, which is a huge resource list of resources, articles, culturally competent exercises, and so forth. So that's going to be available 24/7. There's a link that's attached to the sabbatical proposal, and students and faculty and staff can access it from there. I also presented at the CTX. So I did a training for counselors and faculty and staff, which was well received. And also part of the sabbatical is to create a panel of professionals that are going to come to campus. It's scheduled in April, and we're bringing professionals that I interviewed and interacted with during the sabbatical, and students as well, to discuss cultural competency and what that means for our campus and what that means for our students. So lastly, the service and practical application. So to the students, this project will provide them with a sense of connectedness, support, and self-efficacy. Service to the college, it supports our educational master plan of professional development. And also to the community, confidence in knowing that if individuals send their kids to Cerritos College, we're committed to honoring, accepting, and respecting their unique strengths. And that's it. Thank you. So thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes, Trustee Escobar.
Would this be available for students who are wanting to go into the counseling career?
Yes, it will. So the goal is to, again, I facilitated a workshop in the CTX, but I want to have community forums and to also have opportunities for students to engage and interact, and so we can hear the student voice as well. Because oftentimes we tell students what they need, but we don't hear from them in terms of what they would like to see. So yes.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned that you did a workshop for CTX. I'm not too familiar with the structure of how it works, but are those recorded, or are they somehow, so you can share them amongst other faculty members who may want to hear your presentations but couldn't attend the workshop? Do you know?
No, it was not recorded yesterday, but I'll ask and find out if that is a possibility in the CTX, because we're going to have future workshops as well.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's something that we could consider. I don't know if CTX, I don't know exactly the structure of it. I know we had a presentation, but I know I'm on that, the statewide EEOAC advisory committee, and they're really kind of changing the structure into doing a lot of these sessions online, and then they may be able to share with a larger amount of faculty and staff. So maybe that's something we should be doing too, because it sounds like a lot of our faculty members are doing some really great work that could be shared. Yeah, that could be shared amongst a greater amount of people to really and get the benefit from your experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll just feel bad by showing them what our
how great we're doing. Yes. All right. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right. All right. And our next presentation.
Thanks. Good evening, board members, Dr. Fierro. My name is Kevin Taylor. I'm an instructor in the Automotive Technology Department. My sabbatical was made up of two primary parts, and those two objectives, the first one was to update my technical skills to support a new growing program that we have here at the college, a partnership with Subaru of America. Subaru came to us about 3 years ago after many years of a very successful program that Mr. Vega and I started back in 2000, which was called the ITTP, standing for the Import Technician Training Program. Cerritos College Automotive has a long history of successful partnerships with General Motors, Ford, Daimler Chrysler, FCA, and about 2000, the market had shifted predominantly to a majority of import dealers and import sales in Southern California, and the college wasn't really representing that training very well with the dominance of those three domestic markets. So Mr. Vega and I formulated the idea of taking the model developed by General Motors in 1982 and then implementing an import training program. We had no sponsors. We had no companies that said that they would sponsor us, that they would give us vehicles. We just said, we're going to do it. So we purchased curriculum on the market. We begged, borrowed, and stealed to get cars donated. And ultimately, we got 6 Hondas and about 5 Mitsubishis, and those held us over for a number of years. The program grew dramatically and was very, very successful. Ultimately, some manufacturers took note of this, and they wanted to partner with us. And we had a lot of interviews with a lot of different manufacturers: Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Nissan, and Subaru and Audi seemed to be the best fit for us. They weren't demanding, they weren't asking for a lot of money, they weren't asking us to purchase vehicles. They were willing to donate vehicles, donate technical training, donate tools and all of that to support our students. And so it was a great fit for us. So our first formal partnership was with Subaru, and we became what's called a Subaru U School. The Subaru U School started out just by name, and ultimately then a few students started to become sponsored in some Subaru dealerships and come to the college. Dealerships would send their students here asking them to enroll in the college. So it worked out pretty well. There was only one element missing. The element was none of our faculty, none of our 6 full-time faculty had been Subaru certified. We had been Chrysler certified, General Motors certified, Ford certified, and no one had been Subaru certified. So fortunately, I received the opportunity to take a sabbatical and to take the training. So that is the first objective which I completed, and it was to enhance our partnership with Subaru. Ultimately, you'll see in a moment how that enhancement worked out pretty well. Secondly, the other two objective was to research some strategies to help improve student success in technical courses where student basic skills are needed. Wow, what does that mean? All right, well, we all know what basic skills are. We know that students can come from a high school and they may be lacking some basic skills for math, English, or reading. But in all technical areas, and I didn't just talk to technical instructors, but I went to the art department, I talked to the sculpture instructors. Students coming from into our colleges, entering the programs, they're sometimes lacking knowledge with materials. The difference between stainless steel and aluminum, the difference between plastics and woods, and basic skills that can help them be technical. In the technical world of automotive technology, they were having difficulty with measuring. They were having difficulty with a lot of things which were hurting their success. So struggling with this and having a concern for student success and having them be successful and not drop out or not get discouraged or fail or injure themselves or a component in the program, I thought it was important to reach out to other schools. Is this a Southern California problem? Is this a California problem? Is this a national problem? What is this problem that we're experiencing? And so I visited colleges all over the western United States talking to automotive programs and instructors and gathered information. And overwhelmingly, this is not a problem that is unique to anyone. It is throughout. And that is that students are lacking those basic skills. Now, people can say, oh, this is because of the cell phone generation. They can say, oh, these students have been playing too many video games. They've been on YouTube too much. It doesn't really matter who you want to, or what the reason is, or what the purpose is. My objective was, we're professional educators. Our job is to figure out how to communicate with these students, prepare these students for success. So it's irrelevant why they are the way they are. Our important mission is to solve the problem and find a way to communicate with them, prepare them. And my experience is students generally want to succeed. So having a student enroll in a technical program that's a little bit too difficult for them will ultimately cause them to become frustrated, fail, or drop out. If we can guide them in a path, help them develop a path, help them see their level of competency as they enter the program, they will naturally go towards a path which is going to lead them to success. So those were the two primary objectives of my sabbatical. Let me talk briefly about my instructor certification. So my area of instruction is automotive engines, manual transmissions, automatic transmissions, and electrical systems. That's what I specialize in. So in order to teach those Subaru subjects, I had to become certified, or what they call a specialist level, or the instructor level. The benefit of this instructor certification is that when a student takes the class with me in the classroom and then goes online and takes the post-test, they get exactly the same credit from Cerritos College Automotive as they do as if they attended the Subaru Training Center in Ontario, California. That credit goes into their permanent training record when they go for employment, or if they're already employed. Subaru has tremendous benefits for the dealership as well as for the student/employee to have those credentials. For example, if a student takes an engines class from me and gains the ILT, or what they call the engines certification, that student can do a repair in a dealership under warranty and get paid for it. Without the certification, they are not allowed to do that repair. So the students not only get to do more technical work in the dealership, but the dealership benefits by having a trained student working in the dealership. So it's a win-win for everyone. So the interesting thing about my sabbatical is these were my 4 objectives, was to get these certifications, which involved approximately 81 individual courses ranging from 1 hour to 24 hours in length. Because of a recall that Subaru implemented for valve spring repairs, the entire training center stopped their regular instruction and converted all of their coursework to conducting this recall valve spring repair training. And I wasn't going to make my objective. I wasn't going to complete all my training. So I started to take some other classes just to fill in the time that I had available to do that. And I was able to get additional certifications, Subaru Hybrid Safety, Skill Group Zero Maintenance, which was an amazing course that turned out to be one of the first courses that we will be delivering to our students. And then Skill Group 70, which is specialty vehicles. Fortunately, the training for the specialty training for valve spring repair ended, and they resumed their regular training schedule, and I was able to complete my objective. So it was just kind of a nice anomaly that it worked out quite well. So what are the benefits of instructor certification? I briefly told you that the student can do work in their dealership, the dealership can get paid, the student can get paid because they are certified. But this is what this picture right here really summarizes the partnership and the benefits of a certified instructor. So in the picture here, you see 2 students. You see Mr. Glick, who is my teaching partner. And what you don't really see is what this partnership has generated. The 2 students you see sitting right there are in a 2019 Subaru Ascent, brand new, delivered to the college when I was about halfway through my sabbatical, and I received my first certification. So this is a 2019 brand new vehicle that our students get to learn on. This is exactly the same vehicle they may be doing warranty work on in the dealership. You can also see a student there. He's kind of looking down at something on a cart there. That's a scan tool that was donated to the college. It's about $14,000 in equipment. And that student is learning the exact same training, the exact same tool that they would use in the dealership to diagnose this 2019 Ascent. But the most important thing that is in this picture is that those two students right there, just about a year and a half before this picture, were just high school seniors. And today they're both working at Timmons Subaru in Long Beach. They're both certified Subaru technicians, and they have about a 5-year jump start on the average technician through our program. So it was an excellent, excellent opportunity for us to do, for them, to provide to them. And that's just these two students, and we have about 10 or 15 more right now. The second half of my sabbatical was on basic skills, concerns, and strategies, and how it is that we are going to improve our instruction. How are we going to help students lacking basic skills be successful in technology? And so the concerns were, we want to set the students up for success right away. We want to give them the opportunity to create a plan. We want to give the students a knowledge of where they are and a path to prepare themselves for taking these technical classes. Ultimately, student safety is the most important thing, and students without practical knowledge can put themselves at risk for injury, put their lab partners at risk for injury. And so it's very critical as a lab instructor for all these years. My number one concern is student safety. And a student that doesn't understand, you've heard the term, doesn't know their own strength, a student can easily break fasteners. As you see, this is a cross-section of a Subaru transmission. It has very delicate yet very tough components in it. A student could very easily damage the transmission or injure themselves not servicing it properly. So how do we help these students know where they're at so that we can provide them with the proper training? And then ultimately, our goal is for the student to become a completer, complete their certificate, get out into the world of work, become a full-time employee or a part-time employee while they're going to school, and then ultimately a full-time position. So what were the strategies? The strategies that I learned, and I highlighted about 8 of them in my report, but the ones that really got my attention the most were that students today need an assessment. They don't have a good grasp of their level of expertise or their knowledge or their basic skills when they come to the college. And so to give them an opportunity for assessment, it was one of my projects, and I thought about developing my own assessment tool, but then I discovered that through commercial opportunities, and there are many products out there now for assessment, because we are not alone. The world of work industry is also having this exact same concern. There's a lot of people coming into employment opportunities saying that they can do things, but they don't necessarily have the background. And so many companies have sprung up with assessment tests. One of these companies is called Criteria Corporation. They partnered with us and they gave us free access to their assessment tools. This was a free trial, unlimited free trial. And so I offered this assessment tool to my students, and I said, would you guys like to take the mechanical aptitude test produced by this company, Criteria Corp? I said, it's 100% voluntary. Without a doubt, 100% interest. I administered approximately 70 tests. They were all extremely interested in knowing how they matched up against the rest of the world or people in the United States. And the scores were very enlightening, and I'll share those with you in a moment. One of the other approaches that I discovered along my route was the way that students like to learn. In the labs that I've taught for many, many years, we have generally used teamwork. In other words, we may have 8 or 9 transmissions, and we divide the class into groups of 3 students. So one student doesn't work on the transmission themselves. They usually have lab partners, 2 or 3. And that works out pretty well. The students enjoy working together. They can bounce things back and forth. They will generally have a student that has very good penmanship, be the one that takes the lab notes, and the student that likes to get on the computer, look up the service information, and the student that really likes to use the tools to do the mechanical aspects of the tool. So they divide up the objectives. The one thing that I noticed that this particular school utilized was they had an unusual program where they had a high school and a college combined program. So they had 2 high school classes and they had 2 college classes, and the instructor had to teach all 4 groups. This is a big challenge because the high school students were juniors and seniors who had never had any technical training, and then they had the college students who had already had 2 or maybe 3 years of technical training if they had it in high school. So this is Northland Pioneer College in Show Low, Arizona. And I ran into this instructor. I talked to him on the phone. He invited me out to visit his school. And what you can see in the illustration is you can see 3 students. One's under the hood of this truck, one's behind the truck, and then there's a woman there kind of looking over the shoulder. The woman is a college student. She's in her 2nd year of community college, and she's the team leader for these 2 other guys who are installing this engine in this truck. This is a high school/college program, and they do amazing work. They had approximately 7 engine overhauls going on in this shop. That was incredible production and an incredible learning environment. And it was based because the instructor took the time to take the more advanced students and divide them up as team leaders to help manage the new students. Their objective was, don't break anything, don't injure anything, help the students learn. When in doubt, ask a question. The best thing about this was this woman that you see in the picture here. She knew when to ask a question. The students, the younger students, the high school students may not have had the idea of when to ask a question, but she knew when to ask a question. That helps the student learn to know when to seek out service information or when to ask for help. So through her experience, those 2 other students were learning. It was an excellent opportunity. We've used similar lab opportunities where groups of lab students with team leaders. When you have peers or students that are all the same level, it's difficult to implement a team leader because they are all peers. But in this environment, when clearly you have a sophomore in college, they can oversee a junior or a senior in high school pretty easily. It was a pretty good program. This is the diversity that we encounter frequently in our labs, and this is part of some of the strategies that I've been working on. This is the results of the assessment test provided by Criteria Corp. It's a 60-question mechanical aptitude test, general in nature, not automotive, just general in nature. The job descriptions that are highlighted on the right-hand side are entry-level mechanical aptitude test, forklift driver, stock, parts delivery, parts person, general stuff. And so there's 60 general mechanical aptitude questions. I took the test myself. They are general in nature. And so when the students took these, you can see the diversity of what we experience. Both of these students here on the screen are in the same class. One student is in the 92nd percentile. The other student is in the 5th percentile. And so when students enter a program, they both have the same desire. They both ultimately should have the same goal, but one student is clearly ahead of the other one as far as the mechanical aptitude or the basic skills. So our job is to figure out how we're going to communicate to these students and help them learn. This was one of the best tools that we have developed. Since then, Criteria Corporation has offered to continue their sponsorship with us, and I've been working with Dr. Nick Rial to purchase the program, and we're just working on the 508 compliance. That is pretty much a summary of my sabbatical report in detail. It's just 72 pages in detail on the other areas that we talked about. Currently, Dr. Rial and I are working on a course to provide technical basic skills to anyone, any course, fine arts, sculpture, woodworking, machine tools, nursing, any technical related subject that needs basic skills. We're developing that course. So,
Great. All right. Thank you very much for your presentation.
okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have any quick questions or comments from colleagues?
I just wanted to make a comment, how straight across the board, it just appears like everyone's on the same
Yes.
page with, student-centered, student needs.
Yes.
And identifying how you can move students from one level to another and individualizing instruction, and just how careful and thoughtful everyone who presented today has been. I really appreciate your hard work. I really do. And I know our students are benefiting from it. So I want to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Echoing Trustee Camacho Rodriguez's comment, I really appreciate all your guys' hard work over the last year plus. And one question I have posing to all of you, what would you say would be, if anything, something that you would offer to us as a way that we could continue to evolve and improve this sabbatical program?
I guess like the part 2, right? Sabbatical part 2.
Well, yeah, or given the fact that you've been through it, any food for thought for us in terms of encouraging the best possible outcomes?
Well, I just from observing these results tonight, I think it's pretty impressive. I was on the sabbatical leave committee for 6 years. What I enjoyed the most about it was reading about all of the different disciplines, things that I didn't really know that much about. It was just wonderful. Mm-hmm. And to see what the faculty are bringing back to the college. For example, just because I'm intimate with my own project, the certifications that I can now provide to our students, which they can't get anywhere else. And we can provide that to a student who's just 1 year out of high school. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And that was an opportunity that you made available to me, that I'm making available to our students.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I think the continued support.
Would you mind sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
Well, you probably can have that voice so well. Here we go. I think the continued support of sabbatical is really essential. I mean, this is a teaching college, right? So we put all of our energy, the amount of energy we put into our students in the day-to-day, week-to-week, the summers that we're not here, we're still working on our curriculum. But to have the time to really do the research and to reflect on our teaching and to keep up. That's what we're doing. We're educating people, so we need to keep up with things. So I think more than anything is to give the support for sabbatical and to encourage. I think it's also to encourage faculty to take sabbatical. It's not a vacation. I can tell you, I worked 15 months. I literally had 1 month off in the 15 months between both summers I was working. When you take a sabbatical, you're doing the thing that you love to do. You love to teach, but you want to be the best teacher, and you need that time. So I guess my call to all of you is support it, don't question it. Understand that, you've hired us to take care of the students here. Mm-hmm. So trust that when we say that we would like a sabbatical, that we're really going to do the work to be better teachers and to give back to the community. Mm-hmm. So
thank you very much for the presentations, everybody. I know since we've been on this board, many of us, this is probably like my 20th sabbatical report that I've seen submitted to the board and to Dr. Fierro, and they just keep on getting better. So thank you so much for all your hard work and your support on behalf of our students. So, all right, we are going to have to move along, and I'm going to have to change things around because I want to get the action items done before 9, which is when we have to recess to closed session. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and skip item 2.04 until we finish the action items. So I will move on to the consent calendar. So the consent calendar is items 3.01 through 3.41. Is there anybody who wants to take an item off the consent calendar? Any items? Okay, so seeing nobody wants to remove any consent items, I will take a motion to approve the consent calendar, item 3.01 to 3.41.
So moved.
And items 3.33 and 3.34 were revised as presented.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
so we have a motion and a second. Seeing no objection, we will go ahead and take a roll call vote on consent calendar.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos? Absent. Trustee Berkey?
Aye.
Trustee Camacho Rodriguez? Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Liu is absent. Trustee Perez?
Yes.
And Trustee Salazar? Motion passes.
Yes. Trustee Avalos, she just walked back in. She is recorded as a yes. Okay, so we will move to item 4.01, which is the information item, College Coordinating Committee minutes, January 27th and February 10th. So motion to receive and file?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to receive and file. So seeing no objection, that item has been approved. We will go to our next item, 5.01, which are a consideration of approval of sabbatical leave reports for 2018-2019 academic year. We just heard them. So I will go ahead and seek a motion for approval.
Motion.
To a motion
Second.
and a second. So seeing no objection, we will ask for a roll call vote.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos? Trustee Berkey?
Aye.
Trustee Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Liu is absent. Trustee Perez?
Aye.
And Trustee Salazar? Motion passes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So move on to item number 5.02, which is a consideration of adoption of resolution number 20-0304A in recognition of Women's History Month. So who's doing a brief presentation or update on this item?
We are essentially presenting the board with a resolution to recognize Women's History Month. Women's History Month, at least, I'm assuming that this has been prior to my arrival, but since my arrival, I've seen Women's History Month as a very strong activity, program, recognition, celebration that has been done at Cerritos College traditionally. Anna used to do a lot of that work, and she was always very excited to do this work. She has now retired and passed the baton to two new members. I believe it's Amy and Michelle Facundes, and they are continue to do the work on Women's History Month. So we would like to obviously support that work and recognize the effort by bringing a resolution to the board and support and acknowledgement of Women's History Month.
Right, great. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Fierro. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
A second? All right, so seeing no objection, roll call vote.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos? Yes. Trustee Berkey?
Aye.
Trustee Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Liu is absent. Trustee Perez?
Aye.
And Trustee Salazar? Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item number 5.03. It is a consideration of approval of a Hovhaness Incorporated License and Management Agreement. Dr. Fierro?
Yes. So as we know, we are finishing the final details of closing on the student housing property in Barnwell. And through our partnership with Hovhaness essentially is the nonprofit organization that is going to help us running the facility through the implementation of the program that we have had in effect on the district for a little over 2.5 years. Through that program with Hovhaness, we have been able to place around 80 students in the local community and help them with transitional housing and giving them social services and living techniques in order for them to become independent. So through this agreement, we are outlining the partnership between Cerritos College and Jóvenes, and essentially they will be responsible for the day-to-day operation, the screening and placing of our students in the same way they have been screening and placing students in need. And during the period of these agreements, Jóvenes will pay the district a licensing fee of $10,850. Throughout the operation, throughout the term of the agreement, we are committing not to use general funds funding in order to run the student housing beyond the initial investment that we are going to make in purchasing the property.
That's a 10,000 and change per month, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so questions and comments from my colleagues. All right, questions. Dr. Salazar.
Yeah, I did have a question. Can you talk a little bit about, our relationship with them in terms of, there are other nonprofits that perform this kind of work. Is this something that needs to go out to bid or to get kind of like the best deal? Can you talk a little bit about that?
No, this does not need to go out for bidding. And essentially, we are just simply extending a service that we already provide through our regular operation with the district. We have had an agreement with Jóvenes for over 2 years right now. They continue to place students. Not only they are going to help us managing the facility, but we have been jointly seeking for grants and additional outside sources of funding in order to be able to run the operation. As a part of the agreement, we are not, as a district, looking to essentially profit from having this operation. What we're simply trying to do is ensure the facility is well operated, the students are being taken care of, that the screening is happening in the way that we agreed on, and essentially we raise enough money that we can operate the facility without incurring to any cost to the district general fund.
But the contract language will change, correct? From the previous.
Yes.
Because you're saying we've had a relationship for 2 years, but this is a different type. This is kind of an extension.
Correct. Yes, this will be for this facility. So in order for us to use, for instance, some of the Proposition H funding that we're trying to access, I think we are being allocated about $300,000 now at this particular time. And other foundation dollars, we needed to have an agreement that essentially lock in our students into the property, meaning that we have to look for funding that allows to exclusively place our students in the property. So part of the recitals of this agreement outline that only our students under our particular rules of agreement can live there. The way the Jóvenes operates, their fundings are open for anyone that qualify, but for this particular development, in the way that is outlined here, we are locking it in for use of our students only. So the agreement is a bit different than what we had before, correct?
Yes, I have a question. I have a question about. I'm still confused a little bit about the funding arrangement. What initial investment is the district made in this, and what ongoing investment will the district make?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So the total cost of the property is about $3.8 million. During the last board meeting, the Board of Trustees authorized us to enter into closing the escrow. So we are finishing some details on the inspection. before we move into setting a final date of the escrow. We were at the property this morning, and they were actively finishing those few details. So if they're able to complete the work this week, it's likely that we will close maybe by the end of the week. So the initial investment of the district is going to be about $3.8 million plus any fees and stamps we will have to pay during closing. After that, the way that we are operating under the licensing fee is going to give us reserves for us to be able to maintain the property, any major repairs, air conditioning, roofing, anything big they will get. We are going to essentially carve out of the licensing fee of the $10,850 the Jóvenes will be providing to the district. At the same time, as I said, we receive operational dollars through Jóvenes on Proposition 8 and other grants. And recently, actually earlier this week, we were notified that we received an additional $700,000 from an state grant through the Chancellor's Office for this kind of work. So in the foreseeable future, we don't see the district spending any general fund dollars to operate the facility.
And what was the source of the original $3.8 million?
The original source, it will be money from the general fund.
Okay, so we did make an initial general fund investment of $3.8 million.
We will.
But moving forward, we are hoping not to use any more general fund. We are hoping to use a portion of the licensing fee for regular maintenance and operation of this.
Correct.
And then my other two questions that I'm getting to is how can a student be screened to be possibly housed here, and what is the dollar amount the student would have to pay to live here?
Yeah, I will let Vice President Perez help us with that.
Thank you. Dr. Perez.
Good evening. We have been meeting weekly with Jóvenes to work through what the day-to-day will look like. So essentially, a student will be referred by a staff member through electronic system that the peer navigators, who we currently have, will sit and talk through a checklist. Students, we are expecting that students have at least one semester at Cerritos College, have a 2.0 or maintain a 2.0 while they are attending, be enrolled in hopefully at least 15 units per semester and at least 9. So, sometimes that can vary depending on what's happening. And students we're going to have rapid rehousing as well as bridge housing. So some students won't have to pay anything depending on their financial situation, while others will pay around or up to approximately $600 per month, which is equivalent to a room in the local area. Dr. Fierro told me that today. So yes.
And it's still 37 units we talked about? What was
6 beds.
No, well, there's
36
7 townhomes, and one of the townhomes will be the offices for Jóvenes with a possible emergency room, and then it will be anywhere between 24 and 28, depending on the needs of the students.
Oh. 24 to 28 beds? Or
Yes,
okay.
beds, occupants.
Yes, thank you. Vice President Lopez?
No, just
and they can comment.
We've been
Support,
working.
we're all support. Okay.
I guess
Yes.
I do
Okay.
have
We're together.
one comment.
Yes, Trustee Berkey.
We've been working. He does all the money. I spend it.
Just for clarity, to hit on Dr. Salazar's question earlier, Jóvenes, my understanding is, and anybody chime in who knows any differently, Jóvenes is generally the provider for our SPA 7 area for this type of service. So there aren't, per se, a lot of competitive resources. They are receiving from the county certain funds in order to deliver this type of service, and we're leveraging their positive reputation and track record in order to service our students in our own backyard. Right? Is that?
That's true.
Yes,
Very
that's
true.
true.
And well said.
Yeah.
Just from a competitive process standpoint, I figured that might be helpful.
Okay, so any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, so there we have an agreement. Oh, the only other question I had is just in regards to safeguarding and protecting our students. I know there's different sorts of credential and safety features in the agreement. Maybe you could just walk it over there just to ensure that our students are safe at all times.
There are two pieces. Would you talk about the Title IX and general rules? And then, Felipe, would you talk about the security, the physical security measures, please?
Sure. I think the first and most important thing is that they will have 24-hour staff on site. So there will be either case manager, graduate intern that will be living on the premises, as well as security at nighttime. So that is, I think, is the first comfort level. Secondly, this Hoveness has a well-vetted process. There will be no alcohol in the premises. There are no partying. They have very strict rules that they will uphold. So for us, from our perspective, we have an obligation around Title IX, sexual assault, sexual misconduct, that we have arranged that they will receive, every staff member, a training, an annual training around Title IX, as well as all of our resources. And they have within 24 hours of any incidents to let our Title IX coordinator know, and for them to coordinate how the investigation will happen, as well as any interim remedies that the student may be entitled to. So I think we're comfortable in that. If there's any student conduct behavior, particularly because we want students who are there who are in good academic as well as disciplinary status. And so we will partner together on helping to support the students.
The only thing I would add regarding the security is part of the agreement spells out the requirement to put surveillance cameras in there to be able to monitor the surrounding of that, so they can see who's coming, who's going on that. The great thing is Hoveness will be occupying this 24/7, and so they will have a individual on site at all times to be able to handle any needs of the students. And like Dilsey said, the requirement would be to report any incidents to us within a 24-hour time period.
And each property now is equipped with a camera ring.
Yeah, so each of the camera kind of has like rings set up on that, so so they would be able to monitor people at the doors. There also would be surveillance cameras on the exterior of the property to be able just to monitor people walking into the property itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes,
So I
Dr.
did have a
Salazar.
quick question. So from a technical standpoint, is this considered like a dorm-like living? So if something were to happen, are we liable, the same liability as if it were to happen on campus? Any type of event towards a student?
Theoretically, we're always liable when we're talking about partnerships with other students. However, the way the agreement is designed, Hoveness is the operator, the manager of the property. So anything that is an issue that happened within the property, Hoveness is the responsible party.
If we are the property owner?
They're still the responsible party. We have an insurance, just like we insurance any building on the college, and that will be our responsibility that we will put there. But any incident between the students or students and the public and so on, Hoveness is the responsible party at that particular time.
Okay, thank you.
One last question. If a student doesn't know about these resources, and essentially if only faculty are allowed to put them in that process, how would they know about this if they themselves don't know the resources that are available to them?
I think that's an excellent question, Valerie. So what I would say to you is we have not advertised any of this at this point because we're in the process of solidifying the property. As you know, once we have the grand opening, we will put we have a marketing campaign that will go out quite expansive, that I think students will be able to know. And our Maxian incident referral form is open to everyone. So that will be the referral process. So someone can self-refer, or if they know of someone, it will come through the process, which is through our care team. And as you may know, we are in the process of hiring a case manager as well. So collectively, they will begin to work with students to get them connected to certainly this property, but also Hoveness has connections to so many other agencies, right? For students that we want to make sure that we're getting them connected somewhere, if not to Barnwell.
So sounds like we wrapped up a good discussion about this item. So at this point, I would ask for a motion for approval. All right, so we have a motion by Trustee Berkey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. Okay, so seeing no objection, we will ask for a roll call vote on item 5.03.
Student Trustee Escobar?
Aye.
Trustee Avalos? Trustee Berkey?
Aye.
Trustee Camacho Rodriguez?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis absent. Trustee Perez?
Aye.
Trustee Salazar?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. I realize I skipped the emergency item, so I will have to go back to item number 4.02, which is emergency item, which is discussion of the California state of emergency as part of the state's response to COVID-19 outbreak. So I will go ahead. Thank you for agendizing the item on emergency basis, and Dr. Fierro.
Yes, well, as many of you know, the state of California declared today a state of emergency. LA County, I believe Long Beach, Pasadena, and many Orange, many of these neighboring cities, but obviously the state declared it a state of emergency. So we have been working and having conversations as to what is our plan of action in the event we get cases of COVID-19 at Cerritos College or near Cerritos College, and how we're going to react to that. So the first communication about some of our early measures on coronavirus was sent out yesterday, and essentially covers everything that is basic cleanliness, washing your hands, using sanitizing, making sure that we clean the surfaces that we use, minimizing hand shaking or hugging when you meet someone, and essentially in a way to minimize transmission of any contagious disease, any virus, or anything that is transmitted by fomites. The next step is we're trying to essentially work with our different constituent groups. So on maybe yesterday, I guess all the days are running together this week, we met with all our constituent groups, and we are looking into ways in which we can be a little more flexible in some of the rules that we all have. The district has rules, faculty senate have rules, or bargaining units have rules, and we are trying to find a way in which we can all agree that in the case of an emergency, we're going to kind of pause those rules for a short period of time under obviously the collective assumption that this does not become a new practice in any of our respective areas. The conversation was very productive, and I think we'll be meeting back next week as all of our constituent group leaders went to their areas. With Executive Council, with Dr. Manella, with Chief Gallivan, we have been working in addendum, I don't know if that would be the correct word, but an addition to of our emergency plan. We already have an emergency plan that is how we deploy in the case of any emergency, but we are adding some language, just a couple of additional pages of what to do in what it becomes an infectious disease. And I will like to ask Dr. Perez and Dr. Manella, who has been here on a baby break. So I'll have to thank your baby Frankie and your husband for allowing you to be here, or for you to get a break, whichever works. And if you guys give us a little bit of an update of what is happening from the health services and from student services. Thank you. And then Felipe will give us an update on some of the additional cleaning and sanitary measures that are taking place around campus.
Hello. So just to update you, for the past few weeks, the LA Public Health Department has had call-ins for health administrators to keep abreast of what's going on in the county. So either myself or my staff or my medical director have called in to see what's going on. The last one, which was last Thursday, was talking about preparing for a pandemic. similar to the pandemic of 2009 for H1N1, and having a plan in place. And there's 5 steps: being prepared, and then moving through that as if there's an infection determined in the community. So as Dr. Fierro said, we're encouraging personal hygiene practices the same as you would with the flu, right? We have those signs in student health. We had the communication that went out. We talked to our students about it, which we do anyway. We haven't had any suspicious cases, and I don't know if people are staying home or what's going on, but I mean, we haven't seen any type of respiratory infections, fever, sore throat combinations this week. In fact, the worst that we saw was the middle of January through the middle of February. We were very busy, but we only had 5 confirmed cases of the flu. I also have a specific number to the LA County Public Health Department for administrators, clinicians line that you can call and speak directly to the physician there who's in charge of the coronavirus. And so if we have any suspected cases, we can call and get information from that person. Is there anything specific you'd like to ask about?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Manella. All right, Dr. Perez.
Really briefly, I want to commend Dr. Manella as well as Chief Gallivan for working on really, while we don't know, obviously, what will happen, we want to plan for the worst case scenario, right? And consider all options so that we can protect the safety and well-being of our campus community. And so it has been a great exercise for us to begin to think about, if this happens, then what do we want to do in scenario planning? So I think, obviously there will be more to come, but I have appreciated the conversations with all of our shared governance groups and participatory governance groups to talk through what that might look like so that we can be prepared for whatever may come. So thank you, Dr. Manella, and to Chief Gallivan for their work in helping to prepare us.
I did want to add one more thing. Sure. For those of you who don't know, our medical director is an emergency physician, and he was in today and I met with him, and my background is also emergency medicine, so it's great that I'm working from the public health department side and for the campus, and then he went to an emergency department county meeting yesterday, and he provided us with a flow chart that they're giving out through the hospitals with emergency medicine. So I have an abundance of information from the public health department and from him, and we're just keeping each other updated.
So from a facility standpoint, what we're doing right now, and so starting tomorrow and over the next couple of days, we're going to start putting up some posters, primarily in the restrooms, which is kind of ensuring students, staff, faculty, everyone knows the proper hand washing, those 5 steps of how to thoroughly wash your hands, cover your cough, the basics regarding just physical hygiene on that. We also are going to put up some posters regarding what to know about the coronavirus. Just briefly, these documents come from either CDC or the county health department. So just really some visuals out there. So you should see those start popping up starting tomorrow, and over the next 2 days, we'll be strategically putting those out. From a cleaning standpoint, we currently, all of our cleaning materials do disinfect and do kill the germs, including the coronavirus. We have ramped up our cleaning efforts throughout campus just to ensure things are getting wiped down. And we're also, because everyone's kind of doing this all at the same time, we're running into some challenges of trying to, a lot of things is basically sold out. So we're trying to tap our resources. We've been working with the student health department, looking at their vendors, looking at our vendors, trying to get, either sanitizers, hand sanitizers throughout the campus so we can deploy them for added cleanliness and being able to sanitize your hands. And so hopefully those would come through. We actually are going to make we made it several orders today. Some items are on backfill, but we're trying to hopefully get things here in the next day or so, so we can start deploying those throughout the campus. But we're just trying to ramp up some of our cleaning efforts just to make sure things are handrails, doorknobs, everything are cleaned down at the end of the day, during the day, and making sure we're visiting restrooms in a timely manner, and just trying to be better as much as we can clean down the campus as possible. Okay.
We also have a website. They will be going live, I believe, tomorrow. We have essentially the background, everything is up and running in the meantime, but we're vetting a few different pieces, and the website will be up tomorrow, will be in our landing page, and all updates will be posted through the website, and any variations on the updates or specific changes or implementations that need to be moved forward will be communicated directly via email, so everyone will know what to expect and then move into the website.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation, Dr. Fierro, and to all of our administrators who spoke to us today. I think I could speak on behalf of the board is that we want to do whatever we can to ensure the safety of our students and our employees here. So please let us know if there's anything that you need from us to do that job effectively. So thank you very much. And thank you for the board for agendizing this item. I know we're running very late on time. So, okay. So there's no action on this item, correct?
On the
Discussion.
presentation.
Okay. All right. So I would like to see what the board would like to do now. We were scheduled to go to closed session as always at 9 o'clock, so we're a little over. But we still have the presentation 2.04 on AB 705 implementation, and then we still have our reports. So what would you suggest?
May I? I would like to request that we at least do the 705. We have Jesus, one of our students here, as a speaker, supporting and giving testimony to some of the work that is being done in our counseling department and in our placement, testing and placement department.
Okay.
So if the board will entertain going with the presentation, it'll be appreciated.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that then. I don't see any objection. So we will go ahead and have our team of people here who are talking about AB 705. And we could maybe, let's see, limit the presentation for a total of 15 minutes. And then we can do another 15 minutes of question and answers. And then if not, we can always follow up questions to Dr. Fierro maybe. And so our goal should be to be a closed session at 9:45. All right, so thank you very much for being here tonight and for being prepared for this presentation. So,
Yeah, you have a table on the mic.
Good evening, Dr. Fierro, board members. Thank you for having us. I'm here with several of my team members, so I'm going to introduce them. So Terry Lopez, who's our Career Services Director of Assessment as well, and two of our counselors. You've heard from Dr. Sheila Hoyle and also Tracy Ukita. And together what we're going to try to do tonight is just give you an overview of what our students go through. So some of the steps from the placement process. Did I introduce myself? Or so I'm Dr. Rosa Prado. Let me back up. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having us. And we're going to try to provide an overview of what the steps some of our students go through from the placement process. and then getting the results and advisement from counselors, and then some of the resources they receive. And at the end, we're going to have Jesus Ayala confirm with his testimony some of the processes that he's gone through and how they've been beneficial to him. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Terry Lopez.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to talk to you a little bit about, oh darn, about how to, what we do in assessment in order to get the students placed into the appropriate English reading and math classes. I'm really pleased and proud of our campus for implementing the requirements of AB 705 in the spring of 2018, which is more than a year before the act required us to do so. We started with the Cerritos Complete as a pilot program, and that summer we decided, you know what, this is what we need to do for all students now. And so instead of waiting and following the timeline we originally planned, we decided to move with it right away. And so as you saw at the last board meeting's presentations, the impact has been very great for the students in order to start, or at least they have a better chance of starting at transfer level English, ESL, and math courses. And so we're really pleased that more of our students are being able to start at that level. Yeah. Okay. 30 years of public speaking and I still get nervous. So for the SRT and the GPT, which we are, it's our self-reporting tool and our guided placement tool. We administer it in the assessment office currently, where students just come into our office and they're able to take the tool right then and there and they get the results. We encourage students to bring their high school transcripts if they're available. If they do not have them, it's not a deterrent for them from taking the tool, but rather allow them to really look at that information so that they're entering the data as accurately as possible, with the end result being a placement into their appropriate course. The beauty of the SRT is that all students will start at that entry tool. And depending upon how they answer questions about when they graduated, whether or not they attended high school in the United States, whether or not they've completed at least 3 years of high school, they will then go branched off into the GPT. So they all start with the same instrument and then they move on to the next one. Okay.
Good evening. So you might be wondering how students find out about taking the SRT, and one of the main ways that they're learning about taking the SRT currently is through CCC MyPath, which is a free web-based onboarding tool that the CCC, the Chancellor's Office Tech Center, developed. So as you can see on the slide, here's an example of some of what are called the advisement cards that students are presented with as they go to the MyPath website, which they're directed to upon submission of the application. And so the second card, advisement card, outlines some steps for first-time college students, and then you can see that it breaks down the different steps, including linking them to the assessment website to learn more about taking the SRT. So speaking of the SRT, the self-report tool, it does provide placement into math, English, and ESL courses based on their high school records. It really is for students who've completed through at least 11th grade at a U.S. high school within the last 10 years. And it asks a series of questions, including information about their grade point average in high school and coursework that they've completed. And it does follow the Chancellor's Office default placement rules that have been given to each of the colleges to follow. And here are a couple of screenshots just so you have a basic idea of some of the things that go on in the English version of the SRT. So they're asked to provide information about their grade point average. We actually have built into the SRT other possible ways also of getting to the English 100 class. And in this example, you're looking at the ERWC class. And then they're given a placement. That placement page does have more information about other things that they can do, including the reference to meet with a counselor if they do have questions about their placement. On this slide, you see the information about the guided placement tool. The guided placement tool is really for students who graduated more than 10 years ago or attended a high school in the U.S. for fewer than 3 years. And it's a self-assessment of language, writing, and math experiences. It asks students to reflect on their experiences with these disciplines and to think through their confidence levels and their history with those disciplines. And you can see for the GPT math, we do ask about a general area of interest that they have, because the major or the area of interest really does impact which math course would be more appropriate for them. So we ask about that, and then they are given their math placement. If it happens to include a support recommendation, they also get information about the AED courses that you heard about at the last board meeting and the Math 5 support class. I'm going to hand it back over to Terry, I think, to talk about this next slide.
Okay, so there's a couple other ways students are placed into their courses, and while the GPT and the SRT are the primary ways, students have always had the option of bringing transcripts and completing a requisite clearance form that they submit documentation of meeting the requirement, and they could submit that to the admissions and records office, and they will do an evaluation, and they can get placed into the course that they are trying to get into. And the other way is that they will be able to go directly to a counselor and meet with them to discuss their transcripts, prior coursework, and a counselor can give them a clearance at that point, allowing them to enroll in the courses that they would like to do. So that's pretty much the way students are placed. And before I turn it over to my counseling colleagues, I would like to announce that as of today, the SRT and the GPT links are now embedded into the My Cerritos student portal, giving students the ability to complete them anywhere at any time. And I will have to thank Mike Salazar in IT for his commitment to getting this done. It was a dream of ours when we first started talking about doing this. How can we make it available so students don't have to come to campus just to take this tool? And we finally got to that point, so I'm really excited. And if I could figure out this technology, I might have to bring Tracy up so she can help me. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, I'm going to show you how easy this is going to be. Of course. Oh my goodness. Well, trust me. They go into their login information, they type in their information, and then the next screen will take them to a section that says placement, and the two links are there, one for the English ESL and one for the math. And then once they click on that link, they are taken directly to the SRT. And the thing I like about it, it provides a level of protection and checks and balances for us, because the student needs to use their their Cerritos College student ID number in order to sign in. And so that helps minimize, we're hoping, the errors that students sometimes do when they're quick on the fingers with their student ID numbers. And like I said, the main thing is that a student anywhere, even especially our distant learning students, they can take the SRT without having to come to campus just for that. Thank you.
Okay, so when students come into our offices, how do we advise them? So it depends on the student. We have students that are recent high school graduates that have taken the SRT. Many of them place at college level courses, and we advise them based on their major, which math or English course they should take in order to transfer, depending on what their goals are. When we have continuing students, they may have completed the assessment years ago, and may want to come back with their transcripts to determine what course is best for them to take in terms of course sequencing. We use multiple measures, which is a conversation with the student about their high school GPA, previous coursework, their comfort level. Is math or English your friend? Your academic goals and interests. And based on that, we discuss sequences and co-requisites for the appropriate courses that they need to take. We also recommend tutoring if needed. We discuss the expected skills and performance for certificate, degree, or transfer. And we also provide resources for the student to be able to be successful in those courses. For reentry students as well, some may have taken a math course previously and now recognize that they can bypass a prerequisite to take a transfer level course. We have those same conversations. What are your goals? What do you want to do? How long has it been since you've taken math? What's your comfort level, and so forth. So that's pretty much what we do with students when they come into the office. We use multiple measures, and it depends on the student. It depends on the major, but we do have those conversations with the students to determine what the best route is for that particular student. So now I'm going to turn it over to our guest here, our student, Jesus.
Hello, everyone. So, I'm just want to say I'm grateful for this program, this new law that passed. My story is a little different from a lot of the students. You know, after high school, I did the mistake of not coming to college right away. So, and then at the age of 21, I was shot, and from there, that kind of froze my future, my life, my progress. So my main point at that time was recovery, rehab. So school wasn't a priority. It wasn't until then, 10 years later, that I decided to come back to school, to Cerritos College specifically. And I took this assessment test. However, I scored in math 40. And if it wasn't for this law, I'll be taking math 80 as of right now. But because of this law, I was able to skip to psychology stats last semester, and thankfully I passed it with a B. Thank you. And I'm very excited to share that this is my last semester here at Cerritos College. And I'll hopefully be transferring to UCLA. If not UCLA, it's okay. We applied to Santa Barbara, Irvine, and Riverside as well. So I'm very thankful for this law that passed.
And always wear that Cerritos sweatshirt proudly wherever you go.
Thank you, Cerritos. Thank you for your time.
Again, thank you for having us. This concludes our presentation, but we did want to share a handout that we passed to our students that is well or utilized throughout our campus. Are there any questions or anything else?
So
we can
we
answer?
are right on time. Good job. Okay, so now we have 15 minutes until 9:45 to ask questions. So, all right. Comments? Okay. from our trustees, colleagues. You want to start, Trustee Escobar?
I just want to state that I found the placement, the SRT, on my my Cerritos, so it does work.
Yeah.
Good job, Valerie.
Yes, it's great. So I have a quick question about math. I think math is a big barrier for a lot of our students still. And for those who are, who after they do the SRT, they self-place themselves at below college math. Is there any sort of like intervention or discussion with them, encouragement that, hey, if you're able, could you enroll in either, if you're not a STEM major, a statistics or a different path, and that we can, give you the additional support. I know we have a lot of support services. We have a Med Tutor, Student Success Center. We have a lot of great resources. So I'm just worried about those students who are kind of on the edge, and how do we get them to have the confidence in themselves to go to that first level, college level math.
So I think as you know, yes, students definitely are a little wary of math. And I try to present this as an excellent opportunity and then share with them some of the data. And you all saw the throughput rates from the last presentation, if not the presentation before that as well last year. So it's really compelling data, right, to be able to show them and to explain to the students that, unfortunately, what the whole state was doing and relying on those placement tests really put most of our students at a serious disadvantage. So that they have this opportunity now to move forward. What I have found, though, is that many of the students, they still are uncomfortable, but I have worked with students who did originally place in Math 40, showed them some course descriptions. Actually, the math department, the English reading, and the ESL departments were excellent putting these course descriptions together. That includes pre-tests and sample finals so that students can actually look through the material. So I've sat with students to actually show them this sort of information. And you can see their thought process as they're going through them. I don't know how many of them are really taking the time while they're going through the GPT to actually wade through all that information at the time, but when they're meeting with us as counselors, we can share that information with them. What I have found, though, is a lot of students do kind of decide they're going to take maybe one step back because it's more in their comfort zone at that point.
Thank you. All right, questions from anybody else? Comments? Okay, so seeing no questions, I will go ahead and thank you everybody for being here tonight and for sticking with us late, and we appreciate that. Thank you for all your work you're doing on behalf of our students. So, all right. I'm sorry, Dr. Farrow? Okay, so are we going to go to closed session now? Why don't we do our reports really quick so we can talk to somebody besides ourselves. So I will start with Trustee Escobar.
We had a very big voter turnout. I saw a lot of voters after my 8 p.m. class still outside of the the voting center. And it was very nice to see a lot of the turnout, as well as want to thank Culinary Arts for providing a free pastry for those who have the I voted sticker. So I really want to thank them for that. That was a very great initiative on their part. And next week is the Falcon game, so if you'd like to attend, it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they will be hosted by ASCC.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Salazar?
Just wanted to thank Dr. Fierro, staff, and students on pretty much making the voting center here on campus happen. I think that's very important, and it says a lot about us as a college to kind of be one of the first colleges to do that. So I was very proud of that and wanted to thank everyone for their work on that.
Just real brief, I wanted to thank all of the faculty that presented today, and I was thinking about how everyone was able to relay difficult information to layman's terms so that it could be very clear for anyone listening to the topic. And so I was just thinking about how valuable that is, and maybe we should think about something in terms of there's TED Talk series, maybe we could do a Cerritos Talk series or like a masterclass series. What they have presented today, at least from all the ones that we have seen since this started have been just exceptional. And so I think that's something that we need to share as a model for other community colleges that also support this type of professional development. And, you know, it's valuable to our community. Thank you.
Great. All right. Dr. Fierro?
I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time yesterday at a USC Solar Energy Talk that was organized by Professor Jeff Bradbury. He has been fostering this partnership with USC and their chemistry department for about 12 years, and we actually have some PhD graduates from their chemistry and physics departments. They started their career at USC through this partnership of paid summer internships. The applications are now open, and they take usually 3 students from Cerritos College, and for the 8 weeks they get paid, I think is $3,500, the internship experience, and access to conferences, talks, and so on. And it's a really great experience. I also like to thank the board for their commitment and support on the student housing project. This is incredible to be able to do this for our students. And I know that it will not have been possible without your leadership, vision, and particularly your support, getting behind the initiative and doing something that no other college has done, and taking a risk on exploring a partnership in a way that actually serves students that need the housing. We could have gone a different way with the student housing, essentially public-private partnerships, but those partnerships don't usually lead providing to housing to those students that cannot afford it. So this is really good, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that everyone has done getting this, but particularly I want to thank the board for supporting everyone and our students to getting this project done. Also like to thank the whole campus community for the effort done over the last year and a half in accreditation. Visit. The visit was a very good visit. Hopefully, the preliminary report reflects the comments that were made by the chair of the accreditation group. They are all standards being met by the district. There was not any standard that was not met by the district. There are only a couple suggestions for improvement. Two, there are continuing to develop the system processes, SLOs, evaluations in student services area that Dr. Perez began about a year ago, and is making great progress on that, and continue to develop our project evaluation and how we align our goals and budget requests. The Vice President Lopez, along with everyone in budget and planning and planning committees across the district, have been implementing over the last few years. So I'm very hopeful that this report is going to reflect what the college has been doing over the last 5-6 years, and that everyone is proud of the results of the accreditation. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Trustee Berkey?
Echoing a few different things. Voting, wonderful. Also, the accreditation, everybody's been working on that. That's I just really proud of how well we've done so far, and the folks we spoke with were just seemed to be really impressed with our campus. So I just really want to thank everybody for that. And then likewise also on the student housing piece, it's interesting and really complimentary. You know, what's the old saying? Flattery is the most sincere form of a compliment. And so or was it imitation is the most sincere form of flattery? Yeah, that's what it is. But just seeing so many other colleges right now trying to figure out how to do something similar to what we're doing is one of those things that I don't think we intended when we went into this, but it's also one of those really gratifying things where you're trying to do something that's right, and then you're excited by the fact that it has a much bigger effect on folks than we originally even intended. So compliments to everybody involved with that. That's it.
All right, Trustee Avalos?
I have nothing to report other than, I'm glad the elections are over.
Trustee Lewis?
I attended the Norwalk State of the City address, and everything's going great in Norwalk. Also, to all of the at least presumptive winners, there's still plenty of votes to be counted, but many races probably won't flip. But I'll congratulate them in the next board meeting after certification. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. We'll be next.
All right. I just wanted to echo the comments about accreditation. Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work over the last year. But then especially last week, it was a very busy week, long week, hosting and having good detailed discussions with the accreditation team. So congratulations and thank you, everybody who participated. We also had our foundation meeting last week. I think that was just last week. Yes, last week. And a lot of exciting things that the foundation is working on. And one of the things that I've been tasked is to chair the membership development committee. Membership, right? Yeah. Yes. Membership. Yeah. So if anybody has any ideas for new foundation board members, please send me some ideas because we're looking to expand our board. And we're looking for diverse members who are dedicated to our students and, more importantly, who have the ability to fundraise. So that is something I wanted us to share. And then the other thing I wanted to see is what's that magazine that we send to every resident? Insight, yes. I'd like to see for the next one if we can do a piece on dual enrollment. Because I think, again, that's gaining a lot of traction. And I think even more importantly for the college, it's also a revenue generator. So we should see what we can do to promote that to a greater audience. So I would like to suggest that. Okay, so let's move to closed session. There will be a readout. 3 readouts, 4 readouts, 3 or 4 readouts. Okay, so we will go ahead and recess to closed session now. Thank you very much. All right, so we have 3 readouts. We will be reading out of closed session. The Board of Trustees, the first item is compensation for fiscal year 2019-2020 for unrepresented full-time management, confidential, and child development center employees. The Board of Trustees authorizes the VP of Human Resources, Assistant Superintendent, to implement adjustments in the salary schedules for the unrepresented full-time management, confidential, and child development center employees employed by a district as of March the 4th, 2020, and as presented in closed session for fiscal year 2019-2020 as follows. For 2019-2020, the 2018-2019 Management, Confidential, and Child Development Center salary schedules will be increased by 3.26% effective retroactively to July 1st, 2019. The votes were 6 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. The second item is compensation for fiscal year 2019-2020 for unrepresented contract management employees, the president and the vice presidents. The Board of Trustees authorizes the VP of Human Resources, Assistant Superintendent, to implement adjustments in the salary schedule for unrepresented contract management employees employed by a district as of March 4th, 2020, and is presented in closed session for fiscal year 2019-2020 as follows. For 2019-2020, the 2018-2019 contract management salary schedule will be increased by 3.26% effective retroactively to July 1st, 2019. For the 2019-2020, president's salary will be increased by 3.26% effective retroactively to July 1st, 2019. The vote was 6 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. The last readout is public employee discipline / dismissal / release. The Board of Trustees took action in closed session to adopt a decision following grievance arbitration pursuant to Education Code Section 47610.1, upholding the district's decision to deny tenure to a contract faculty member identified by case number 668910003. The votes were 5 yeses, 1 nos, and 1 absent. That concludes the readouts. We're going back to closed session.